Good morning, all, depending when you're watching this. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, I'm going to be showing you a rather exciting new Registeel card coming out in the upcoming Celestial Storm expansion of the Pokemon trading card game. We've already looked at Regirock. Regirock is, I believe, the most exciting of the Reggies coming out in Celestial Storm, but I think Registeel could be pretty good as well. And once again, might I congratulate Pokemon for giving us another set of the Reggies, just 3 sets after we got them all in Crimson Invasion. I am delighted. This makes me very happy indeed, and I would be more than happy to have another set of Reggies in another 3 sets. So it is a metal Pokemon, which at the moment is really good. You've got stuff like Magnezone and Solgaleo Prism Star, which are pretty good for accelerating energy. You've got Metal Frying Pan, which reduces damage done by 30 whilst taking away your weakness. And then you've even, I suppose, got Reverse Valley, but only for a very short time before rotation, which will reduce damage done to it by 10. Not to mention, of course, that you're hitting weakness on stuff like Gardevoir, Sylveon, and Glaceon. And as we're going to see in a moment, this is actually incredibly relevant. Now, it does have 120 HP, which is very disappointing. The one from Crimson Invasion had 130, and 130 is a lot better than 120, because there's a whole bunch of stuff like Zoroark and Golisopod, which will be hitting 120, so having 130 means you can survive a hit, 120 means you don't, although the ability will help to, sort us out with this a little bit. Retreat cost of 3 means you get about a month of Heavy Ball, don't get too excited, it's mostly annoying, and you got a weakness to fire, which isn't a huge deal. Maybe if some people are playing Baby Volcanion Haynek, they could do a bit of damage there, but even then, Volcanion EX is rotating, so it's really not something we need to worry too much about. Resistance to Psychic, I am a big fan of. Firstly, it means that Garbodor will have a much more difficult time KOing you, but it also means that Espeon GX will be doing a whopping 10 damage. That sounds good to me. Now, I did allude to the ability a moment ago, and the ability's really nice. This Pokemon gets 20 damage less from attacks. I should mention that, as has become somewhat of a theme over the last few months, our translations do come from the lovely David Hochmann over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. And this is an ability we've seen time and time again. We saw it on an old Bouffalont, and you know I'm going to mention it, I'm sorry I have to, we saw it on Donphan Prime. Donphan Prime, I mentioned way too much, literally my favourite deck ever, had this ability, and actually had the same amount of HP as well. Put quite simply, this is phenomenal, and it seems like such a silly little thing, but it stops KOs that would otherwise happen. I mentioned Zoroark a moment ago. Zoroark can only do 120 under normal circumstances. Obviously, they could use something like a Professor Kukui, but that's not something on which they can rely. So, generally they'd be getting a KO here, but the good news is, as soon as you bring in this ability, all of a sudden they don't have it anymore. And that really is the difference here. It is stopping KOs that would otherwise be getting. Now, the other thing we could mention here, if we were thinking slightly cynically, and I am, well, okay, why give them an ability that means they take 20 less from attacks, while at the same time taking 10 HP away? That's kind of a little bit annoying, and to be perfectly honest, yes it is. There's no argument about that, it's kind of annoying, but, you have to take what you can get. The fact is that reducing damage by 20 is brilliant. Think about something like a promo Tapu Koko, and they're doing 20 damage to all of your Pokemon. Well, Registeel here is not taking any damage from that. And then, of course, we've got the old Buzzwole, Buzzwole being a very relevant Pokemon at the moment. Buzzwole does 30 to the active, 30 to one of your benched Pokemon. Well, if you're on the bench, Buzzwole can do 10 damage. Now, it's not quite as good as the Magikarp, which prevents all bench damage, but of course, this will work in the active or on the bench, whereas Magikarp does work only on the bench. And admittedly, they've taken away 10 HP, but you could potentially use this ability over and over again. So it's not like Buzzwole just does 30 and you've got 130 HP. You've got 120, but it only does 10 damage every turn. It's basically a 12-hit KO whereas 130 HP would be a 5-hit KO. I mean, look, we all know that Buzzwole's going to use stuff like Diancie Prism Star to add damage, alright? Yes, I get it. But the point is, it's reducing damage. It gives you that extra survivability. Bouffalant saw play back in the day. This was a good ability. Donphan saw play. It was a good ability. Neither of those Pokemon were played because of the ability. This isn't an ability for which you play a Pokemon, whereas something like Vikavolt really is. But it's an ability that's a handy bonus. As a side note, it is on a basic Pokemon, so it will be turned off by Alolan Muck, which I do expect to see a fair amount more of after rotation. So the ability's handy, but the attack is what we really need to be playing it for, and I'm happy to report it does just enough damage. Yay! For a metal and 2 colourless energy, you do 60 damage, but if the defending Pokemon has an ability, this attack does 120. And I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, you're not doing much if you're not hitting for weakness, so we will have a very quick look at that in a moment. Generally speaking, this works when you're hitting for weakness, and all of the Pokemon you really want to be hitting for weakness here have abilities. It's the 3 I mentioned earlier: Gardevoir, Glaceon, Sylveon. 3 GXs, all of which are seeing play, all of which are weak to metal, all of which have 240 or less HP, which means you are getting a flat-out easy KO on any of these using Registeel. That sounds wonderful to me. Now, of course, you've always got Dhelmise, and honestly, I think Dhelmise would be good here, because as long as you're hitting for weakness, 120 is amazing. As soon as you're not hitting for weakness, 120 isn't good enough. Plus, and it's a little bit awkward in terms of attack cost, but let's say you come across a Xerneas, again, pre-rotation, it's not going to last long. 130 HP, you'll miss the KO by 10 damage, because it doesn't have an ability. You'll be doing 60, doubled for weakness, 120. Remember how I said 130 is a lot better than 120? So a Dhelmise will get you the KO here. Now, in terms of GXs that aren't weak, you can do it, but it's awkward. So if you had a choice band, you go up to 150, and then you can either use a Professor Kukui or a couple of Dhelmise to go up to 170, and that is, of course, Tapu Lele territory. And I don't think this is going to be a great Tapu Lele counter. It is an option. To be honest with you, if you're not hitting for weakness, even 120 isn't quite good enough. I'm not liking it too much. But if you are hitting for weakness, this is awesome. And you can use double colourless energy to get it rolling. And you can use Magnezone to get it rolling. And you can use Solgaleo Prism Star to get it rolling. If you're playing Duskmane Necrozma against a deck like Glaceon, it can be awkward to keep getting the 4 energy onto Duskmane Necrozma. Well, how about 3 energy onto a Registeel and then you're KOing all of them, with the added bonus that generally Glaceon would do 30 when you're on the bench and then 90 and get a 2-hit KO, which it can't because of your ability. I don't think Registeel is some amazing all-encompassing attacker. I really don't. But I do think it is a great, great card which could be teched into any deck which is playing metal or something like rainbow or counter energy, which would work. I'll give you one example. Let's say you're playing Malamar. Now, I know not everybody out there agrees with me, that's fine, but I think playing unit energy is really good, the lightning psychic metal one, in that Malamar deck. Well, now you've got Malamar to accelerate energy, and you've got unit energy to act as the metal, so all of a sudden you've got a really nice built-in Gardevoir counter, and might I remind you that Ultra Necrozma, which is a lot of the time going to be your main attacker, is weak to Fairy like Gardevoir. Gardevoir should have a pretty nice matchup against Ultra Necrozma with the weakness, although Ultra Necrozma is discarding energy, so it's not that amazing. In comes Registeel and just makes the whole thing a mockery. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hang on a second, Ross. Didn't you show us a Kecleon the other day? Yes, I did. And Kecleon also works with unit energy and also has a free energy attack. But Kecleon with a choice band only does 220 to a Gardevoir, and it's a metagame thing. Kecleon is clearly better in Malamar decks generally because it can take out things like Boswole and Ho-Oh. Do check my Kecleon video, I'll pop a link in the description. But if you're really trying to get Gardevoir, Registeel's amazing. It's not for every deck, but if you can fit it into your deck with the energy cost, and a lot of decks will be able to, it is a great counter against an awful lot of these fairy decks. I'm giving it 3 Wassies. I like the ability, I think it's a great counter, I think you've got to really pick what deck you put it into. It's the kind of card you put into your binder and leave there because you might want to use it one day. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a free Wassie card. But as always, I want to know from you guys what you think of this card, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.